All right, in this video, we are going to talk about area of rectangles and triangles. The goal at the end of this section, this learning target, is that you can find the area of composite figures. So as you notice, we've got these different shapes that are made up of different shapes. So we're going to review area of rectangles and triangles first. Before we get into putting them together. Okay, so let's start with some vocabulary here. Okay, so area of rectangles, we'll do that first. Area is the surface measurement of a two-dimensional figure. Okay, we're going to use the formula A for area is equal to B times H. And remember, in the middle there is multiplication. We don't write it though, but we know it's there. Where B is the length of the base and H is the height of the rectangle. So I know you guys have learned area is equal to length times width. We switched to base times height. Both formulas are the same and they are correct. It's just talking about different figures. Okay, area is measured in square units. We are in the second dimension. That's why it's squared, because we're going left and right and up and down for our shape. So inches times inches is going to be inches squared. Feet times feet is feet squared. And meters times meters is meters squared. Because technically you're multiplying two things together when it comes to the sides. And I'll show you on this one. Okay, so our formula we're going to use is area is equal to base times height, where usually the base is the bottom, but we know the bottom and the top are the same. So this is the base, and then we have the height here is how tall it is. Because we're multiplying, it really doesn't matter which one's which. Okay, so we're going to plug in our values. Our base is 8.6 centimeters. Times, we don't usually write that in there, but I'm going to show you what's happening here. Times, and then it's going to be 3 centimeters. So we do 8.6 times 3, which is going to be 25.8. And so because we did centimeters times centimeters, gives us centimeters squared. That's where you're getting it from because you're in the second dimension there. Okay, so go ahead and pause anytime you need to. Remember, in this formula, area is equal to base times height. As we're working through these, we're going to work on two-dimensional shapes. We are going to get into three-dimensional. For many of you, I would recommend labeling your picture. So this is usually the base. So this would be my base. This would be my height. I'm going to plug in our values. Base is 2 1/4 times height is 1 1/2. They're both feet. Since it's feet times feet, it's going to be feet squared. Okay, so we're going to put this in our calculator. 2 1/4 times 1 1/2. Pause if you needed to put that in. You should get 3 3/8. Remember to use your buttons, your double arrows, to get those mixed numbers. If you're not sure how to turn it to a mixed number, there are buttons. Please ask your teacher. Okay, so we did some basic ones. Now let's talk about a word problem. 2 walls of a room are being painted. Okay, so I have these 2 walls. Okay. Each wall measures, it looks like they're going to measure the same. 16 feet by 8.5 feet. I'm going to assume they're not super tall. So 16 feet by 8.5 feet. And there are 2 of them. So since they're exactly the same, you can do this, and then we'll multiply it by 2. You can do it and add the number together twice. So I'll show you. Let's go area equals base times height. So our base is 16. Our height is 8.5. So we're going to go 16 times 8.5. Pause at any time to calculate. Okay. All right, 16 times 8.5 is 136. Yes, it is feet squared, but we're not done yet. So what's happening here is this one is 136. This one is 136. They're both the same. So I can either take 136 plus 136, get an answer, or I can do 136 times 2 of them because there are 2. Okay, make sure I calculate this right. And it gives me 272. And since it's in feet, we're going square feet. Okay, this is review, so make sure to ask questions if you have any here. All right, so let's talk about a triangle. A triangle essentially is, and it may not look perfect to it, depends on what it looks like. But if I was to look at a rectangle, let's say like this, and I cut it in half diagonally, you should see that I have 2 triangles. Even if it was a perfect square and I cut it in half, I have 2 triangles there. So essentially, if I'm to draw and cut this in half diagonally, okay, it is going to be 2 triangles. So 2 triangles are formed when a parallelogram is cut in half. Okay, and a parallelogram or rectangle, it doesn't matter, they're both the same. Parallelogram is a rectangle tilted. A rectangle is a parallelogram. So the area formula is base times height. Well, we only want half of that. Therefore, the formula there is area is equal to 1/2 of your base and your times your height. The height of the triangle will form when a right angle with the base. So like this is your height here. If it's not a rectangle, you're going to have it's usually dotted in the middle. Okay, so let's look at this. Formula, area equals 1/2, and it's base times height. Don't panic with the 1/2. You have a fraction button in your calculator. You can change it to 0.5. We can divide by 2. Some people will take and write their formula, area equals base times height divided by 2. It's really the same thing because I can put a 1 here and that's not going to change it. Okay, so my height is going to be this dashed line in the middle. My base is down here. This is my base. Okay, so we're going to go 1/2 times my base times my height. So essentially you're going to multiply your height and your base together. And we are going to get, multiply base height, and then we're going to divide by 2. Or if you have a calculator with fractions, use it. So 14 times 16 is 224. Divided by 2 is 112. If I put 1/2 times 14 times 16 in my calculator, if I have that, I'm still going to get 112. And you're still multiplying inches by inches, so it's inches squared. Okay. It's going to try another one. Again, formula is area equals 1/2 base times height. So you multiply the base and the height like you do with the rectangle, and then you take half of that, or divide by 2. Okay, my height here is 2. My base is 3.5. It's a good idea to label them, as I did on the first one. Had to look back here. 1/2 times my base times my height. So 3.5 times 2 is 7. And then half of that is going to be 3.5. And then we're going meters squared. Okay. So on this sheet here, Make sure that you're using the correct formula, rectangles. And you can put it at the top here. For a rectangle, triangle, anything like that. Its area is equal to base times height. If you're talking about a triangle, area is equal to 1/2 base times height. So no matter what you're doing base times height, and then with a triangle, you're taking half. Be careful, ones like this is the height, this is the base. The height has to have that dash line. It is on the outside, that is okay. You do have an answer bank for these, so be sure to use that. And then we do have a little review here. Remember, your area formula for circles is pi r squared. Make sure that, like on this one, you have the radius. This is the radius. Okay, complete. You've got those 2 pages that would complete that lesson. So, so by the time you're done, you'll have all the basic shapes to get ready to put them together for the area of the composite figure. And we'll put them together and find areas. We'll find each piece individual.